Bring you some updates on the question of identity. You know, it's crucial for a people whose culture have been destroyed. If one doesn't know who one is, one really cannot know what one's interests are or where one is going. This fact can be properly understood if after you've entered the theater tonight, the slave, when the meeting is over, you forgot even where you live, you're in serious problems. You're in serious problems. Thus, always understanding where you come from, where you must go, and who you are crucial for all people, but especially for an oppressed people. Indeed, the first job of the oppressor is to wipe out the culture of the oppressed and have the oppressed believe that they have the same culture as the oppressor. His job is to have you think that you have the same history as the oppressor. Once he thinks that you have the same history, once you think you have the same culture, you will think that the enemies of your oppressor happens to be your enemies. Once you know your history, once you know your culture, you will know that the enemies of your enemy must be aided to bring down your enemy. This has to do a lot with the question of identity. Now, we must tell you in our analysis, we do not make the errors that others do. Anytime you make an analysis of an oppressed people in any aspect of their life and you leave out the enemy, you will never come to a correct analysis. On the contrary, you will blame the oppressed for all of their problems. Therefore, we tell you from the very beginning, we've never taken the line of others that the biggest problem that we have is we ourselves. No. Our biggest problem is our enemy, capitalism, and it must be destroyed. We say any analysis you make of an oppressed people must include the oppressor, otherwise you will come up with an incorrect analysis blaming the oppressed for their position of oppression. Even if one were to talk about the drugs in our community, if you just talk about drugs and not talk about the enemy, you make no analysis at all. Or you may sound serious saying about, well, you know, the trouble with our kids is that all they're doing is fighting for drugs and shooting each other for drugs, and I wish they would stop. If you haven't brought in the question of who brings the drugs in, why the drugs are brought in, for what purpose they're brought in, you will never understand the problem at all. Thus, we make it clear to each and every one, when we speak of the conditions of the African masses, we begin from the very beginning with the enemy of the African masses, all unjust system that seeks to exploit us, capitalism, and especially the racist capitalist system in the United States of America. It is this system which comes to confuse us as to the question of identity. Go into any Italian community, ask all of them what they are. Each and every one of them will tell you without responding, Italian. Go to any Polish community inside this country, ask from the little youngest to the oldest one what they are. Without blinking an eye, they will tell you Polish, each and every last one of them. Go to the Palestinian community here, which is still not free. You'll find Palestinians born in America. Ask any of them quickly, what are you? Without blinking an eye, they will tell you Palestine is not free, and I'm fighting to make it free even in America. Go to Africans who've been in America longer than all of them. Go to Africans who came here under conditions none of them came here under. All of them volunteered to come here, went to get visas to get here. Look at the Africans who didn't ask to come here, who were brought here against their will, who should hate America and should be the last to claim they're Americans. Ask them, what are you? I'm American and proud of it, and if you say something against it, I'll kill you. They say the job of the enemy is to make you identify totally with the enemy. Even if we call ourselves Americans, they don't treat us like Americans. They don't treat us like Americans. We have built this country, and they shoot us down in the street like dogs, and somebody's still holding on to them about we Americans. There's nothing in America for us except exploitation. There's nothing in America for us except exploitation and oppression. Ask any of us And if you have 1,000 of us in one room and ask each of us what we are, you get 1,000 different answers. Of course, you and the slave know what we speak of. We are forced with the same problem here. The problem is through political persuasion, through constant discussion, using nothing but the truth to let our people know exactly what they are. Africans. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing more, nothing less. Of course, as we pointed out over and over again, this question of not wanting to be an African is based squarely in ignorance. The enemy keeps us ignorant, not haphazardly, but by calculated plans. Go and pick up any textbook that you had as a child. Go now and pick up the textbooks that your children have. The only time Africa is mentioned is that she gave slaves to America, and that the slaves who came from Africa to America should be very happy because the price of slavery and the oppressions of America is better than the barbaric life which we lived in Africa. Thank you very much, America. These are facts. You will read in all your textbooks about all the great things the Germans did. The contribution of the French to world humanity. The contribution of the British to world humanity. The contribution of the Italians to world humanity. But Africa, no contributions at all. We say in the very beginning, the struggle here begins with a fight against ignorance. But this fight against ignorance must be properly understood. Not only does the enemy make you ignorant, but then he makes you want to love ignorance and hate knowledge. Hate knowledge. Take any unconscious African. Hey brother, hey sister, what's happening African? I ain't no African. Well, I know you don't know nothing. I know you ain't no African, but would you like to read something about Africa? What's that going to do for me? And they think that when they respond to this, that they're really thinking. Taught by the enemy to react to stimuli, and in the act of reacting, they seriously think they are thinking. The task we have before our hands is a serious and difficult task. But we are revolutionaries. We do not run from difficulty. We run to difficulty. We are African revolutionaries. We understand that man and woman only advances through confrontation with obstacles in their path. And the bigger the obstacles are, the more you knock them down, the more confidence you have that you can knock down any obstacle, especially when it's relationship to the struggle of the masses of your people. How you doing?